Alright, continuing. Conrail, experts on general loads and governing and loading of commodities on open-top cars. These rules have been formulated for the purpose of providing a uniform, safe, and economical method of loading onto open-top cars and are minimum requirements. All the general rules or requirements of locking and securing loads are outlined. Our individual figures are mandatory. Alright, open top loading rules. Rule 1, A8. Fixed support brackets other than appurtenances must be in sufficient strength with the safety support unit transit and body with the same must adequate supported for the rail transportation. Rule 1A9. Items described under the figures or securing loads must be applied with specified except when otherwise indicated under each figure. Rule 4C. Weight of the uniform distributed of the material load over the truck center at the end of the car must be not exceed 30% of the stencil load, limited to 15% each end of the baluster. Alright, load constraints between the baluster and the end of the sills must not be exceeded the following percentages: 50, 30, 15, 10, and 7.5, or 1/4, 1/2, 3/4 inch in diameter of the baluster. Rule 5C, gondola cars. When spacing across open cars between loading car sides exceed 18 inches, load must be secured to prevent moving of the tipping of the toward the side of the car. 10, 12, 10 plus 10 inches equals 20 inches on both sides. Also, all cars, regardless of the vacant space across the car, loads must be secured so that it prevents from falling off the car. Open top rules. Rule 7, clearance. The height, width, of the length, of the weight of the length of the load on one of the car unrestricted movements must be within the clearance limits of the railroads of which will move. A shipment should be measured and reported as possible dimensions load on the form CT-925 when shipments to seek published clearance. Any load exceeding width of the car, any single load overhanging unless overhang comes within a gondola, any pivoted baluster load. Alright, Rule 7, measuring dimensional loads. It shows the clearance covered outline table by table. Starting at the bottom of the truck, 4 by 10 inch centers, 5 foot 10 center from the center, and 5 foot 10 inches from the center. Also from the top of the floor, from the deck, the 3.5 foot, 4 foot, and 6 inches, and then from the side of the clearance of the top, from the bottom of the rail to the top of the thing, it goes 14 foot, 13 foot, 12 foot, 6, and also you have the top of the rail being from the sides, other side dimensionals. The single loads open top, the equipment that come within the measurements shown above the boat moving entirely Conrail will not require the individual authority of the clearance between height of 4 foot and 4 foot 6 inches, 14 foot 2 inches, 14 foot inch, 13 foot 9 inches, 3 foot 5 inches, width of 9 foot inches, 10 foot inches, 10 foot by 10 and 4 foot inches, 10 and 6 foot inches, and 10 foot 5 inches. Open top loads which does not meet the above requirements must be measured for the reported clearance by the Bureau of the disposition. Open top loading rules. Rule 7, measuring dimensional loads. End view, 1/4 of the width, 1/2 of the width, 1/2 of the width. It's pretty much H equals the height and machine type load. Alright, cylindrical type. You have your height. You have your heights is marked as H, and 1/2 from the center of the cylindrical type load is the other part of it. Center of gravity method of loading of the loading cart. Load B, 72,000 pounds cast on the FM cart, J weight of 3,900,000 to a number of 102 inches top of the rail. When measuring the distance of the line, then they have the center of gravity method of loading with the load cart. Load A, 65,000 cast shell with a 10,000 number of the cast iron with the FM car. Load weight 28 inches, 72 inches, and 108 inches. Measuring the distance top of the rail center of the load extremity with the judgment must be you get the center of the weight of the load. Combined center of gravity, center of the gravity of the car loading must not exceed 84 inches nominal handling. Center of the gravity can be obtained from the equipment register. Special cars mechanical superintendent standard cars. Note, when the measuring distance top of the rail center load with extreme care of the judgment must be get in the center of the weight of the load. Combined center of the gravity of the landing must not exceed 84 inches of the nominal handling. The center of the gravity cars obtained from the equipment register special mechanical superintendent standard cars. I didn't read the figures. I just thought it wasn't going to necessary. Open top loading cars method of the calculating weight on each truck, twin or trip load. Alright, you have your 1,500 pounds over the A, B, and C car, 25 foot from the center, from truck to truck, 30 foot from center to center. Alright, 23, the top center of the line bearing of the 75,000 times 23 divided by 30 is 5,500 BN. 7-foot center load bearing the top center of the 75,000 times 7 divided by 30 is 17,500 AN. It's not exactly centered, so it's, Alright, rule 9. When sloping wedges are used for the end and blocking against the vertical surface of the flat side of the wedge should be placed on the floor. Nails and spikes. The blocking should be, when practical, be vertically. Blocking consisting of the two or more pieces of the nails 1 inch long with the thickness of the member, and each nail equably spaced for each of the 2-inch width of the fraction thereof. Rule 9A. When rods, etc., used for the secure load is not covered in details and figures, if it's passed through the floor of the car. Alright, the nick threads on the unlocked nut. Alright, 4x4 by 18-inch hard cleat with a 1.5 inch by 4 inch by 18-inch steel plate must be placed lengthwise of the car under the floor when the rods, etc., pass through the stake pocket with the 1.5 inch 4 inch by 10 inch steel plate must be placed lengthwise of the car under the stake pocket. Rule 10. Laminated stake permissible except for unloads with the pole. 3 pairs per pile with the 20 feet or less. 4 pairs of pile over the 20 foot or less. For example, the securing the stakes, the 4D nail shown in the stake pocket 4 inch by 5 inch or greater. Number 1, stakes tampered fully fit with the stake pocket. Number 2, wedge driven downward 4x4 or greater. 4D bottom stake with a pocket or in whole stake pockets. That also applies to number 3 and 4. Number 3 has a wooden driven upward, and number 4 has the double wedge system with a 4x4 or greater. 5 is a steel band, minimum of a 3/4 inch by 25 thousandths of an inch. 20D nail located on top of the stake to drive through the band. The wedge shown in intake is shown in Figure 5. Alright, Rule 10. Each complete loop formed doubles the number of strands, staple, bended nails. The other order to prevent bands of the wires from working off. 1 is a 2-strand. 2 is example. 1, 2, 3 examples of tying. Alright, Rule 11. All attached parts of the accessory load must be adequately secured to prevent loosening of the damage, loosening the transit. Rule 12 is vacant. Rule 13, 14. Rule 14. When the nails are designated penny weight, with example the 40D weight, the rules to detail figures they must be either come with the current cement coated with unless otherwise specified. Alright, and then you go for the 8D wells, 2.5 inch for the 20D, 4 inch for the 9, 23 and quarter, 30D, 4.5 inch for the 10, 3 inch for the 40D, 5 inches, 12D, 3.5 inches, 50D, 55.5 inches, 16D, 3.5 inches, 60D, 6 inches, size cement coated nails, 8D, 2.5, 3/4, 10D, 2 7/8, 12D, 3 1/8, 16, 3 1/4. 23 3/4, 30, 4 1/4, 40, 4 3/4, and 65 3/4. Power dribble nails must be the number specified applicable figure must increase by the 1/4 to prove the substitution as follows. 10D is equal or power dribble nail with 8 and D 10D. 20D is equal or as in 16 to 20D. The manufacturers who have then power dribble nails tested with the A are listed below with approved nail manufacturer. Pensadola, Senko, and Fastener. Alright, open top loading rules. Rule 15A1. Both rod bands with wire cables, etc. bending through threaded portion prohibited. The use of the rods with the open hook ends for the load or car is prohibited. Bending of the rods around stakes and pockets or welding is prohibited. 2.5. When retaining the nuts of the original position, 3 or more threads of the rods must be nicked immediately behind the nuts. Riveted ends of the rods on bolts unless over with less than 3 threads extended beyond the nut. Not required when nut locks or nuts are used. Note: lock washers are not acceptable substitutes. Rule 15. Shippers should be in the position to show that the banding of the wire product is for securement of the open top loading leads for the air. Requirements: banding the encirclement pile with the must be sealed with the top of the load. When possible, far away from the end of the load is practical. B5. Free end of the band of not more than 12 inches from the seal. Rule 15, B4, bands attached to the stake pockets must be sealed no closer than 18 inches from the point of the anchorage. Shows the dampering with a number of 18 inches load with the metal fillers. Also shows the clamp type, the trim 3 pair shown, and the knots 2 pair shown. Show the metal fillers with a yes of 18 minimum stretch. Sketch 3. C4 high tension wires must be machine tension location twist tie washers attachment not exceeding 6 inches from the point of the anchorage. 6 inches maximum metal fillers. Alright, Rule 15. Bands must be applied within the markings facing outwards. B8. When the bands with the wires for items are covered with these rules, welding on the bands of wires for the items are covered in this rule is prohibited. No, do not use second-hand or reclaimed high-tension bands or wires for the items covered in these rules. Alright, Rule 15 shows Sketch 1. Sketch 2 has a 24-inch minimum. Sketch 3 is a different tie. Sketch 4 is a different tie. Alternate Sketch 4, single strand wire, tied spin length of the span between the tie-down points, the plus of the feet with a double and a half, the double and a half again. Apply a strand around, Sketch 2, apply one strand around the attachment around the either having the strands overlapping approximately halfway between the points for the attachment. Sketch 3, hand twist the strand to ends. Sketch 4, finish the twisting at the center of the appropriate length of the pipe of the rod at 2 inches or 6 and 2 inch or by 2 inch lumber. Do not remove the twist or secure the car secure to the car floor to the tie down point that prevents untwisting. And 14, alternate scratch twisters may be removed with the tie downs as wire to prevent the untwisting as shown above. Alright, Rule 15D. Use the proper type at the side of the number of the clips or clamps. Apply the thimbles with the sharp turns and edges. Distance between the clamps and clamps will equal 6 times the diameter of the wire rope. End of the wire's ropes must overlap a minimum of 12 inches. Do not saddle a dead horse. Clips and clamps. Open top loading rule 15.1. Welding on such items with the rise of flat bar straps directly to both the load and the car is prohibited. Welding and loading directly into the car is prohibited. Open-ended aforementioned items being welded to either load or a car opposite and secured and approved the mandate to provide with the retensioning. Alright, open top loading rule 15F. Holes not exceeding 1.5 inch may be made in the car bodies, excluding the shake of the braces and still for the application of the wires, bolts, and rods not to exceed 1 inch from the diameter of the top of the cord. Angles for driving. Drilling holes are preferred to cutting. Slots of 1/2 inch to 2.5 inches may be made in the car bodies, excluding the top of the cord, angles, and shake of the braces and sills, except when equipped with lading strap. The anchor of the length of the slot must not exceed 1.5 inches for the application of wires or bands. Rule 15J2. The sufficient number of the notches of the crimps must be made to achieve the minimum joint strength. Sketch 1 shows the crimp type showing at 3 pair shown. Sketch 2 shows the notch type joint shown at 2 pair shown. And in sketch shows the 18-inch minimum notch. Tension sealing tools should be checked periodically to ensure their efficiency. Alright, open top rules, common annealed wire, high tension bands, hemp centers, and plow steel, rod bolts, flat bars and plates, and chains and assembly dimensions, working loads, welding links, working load limits in pounds. Alright, variation of working load with lifting angle with the percentage shown are the maximum working load limited for the chain. Maximum working load limits for the chain is in straight with the normal with the working load limited is standard 86.5, 70 and 50%, 34 and 17 and a quarter. Diagrams show how the angle of the sliding affects the working load. It goes from 60, 45, 30, 20, 10. Working load limits approved for the test loads and minimum of the braking load for the alloy steel chain. Nominal 1/4 inch 3,200 feet by proof test 6,500. Minimum brake 10,000. We'll just read the maximum minimum brakes. 3/8 inch 19,000. 1/2 inch 32,500. 5/8 of an inch 50,000. 3/4 inch 69,500. 7/8 of an inch 93,500. 1 inch of an 122,000. 1 1/8 of an inch 143,000. 1/4 inch 180,000. 3/8 of an inch 207,000. 1.5 inch 244,000. 1 3/4 inch 325,000. Alright, open top loading rules. Rule 16, measuring dimension load. Single ending overhang the load. Show the single general A rule for the C. Rule A 6C shows X, O, L, and C and L, C and CL in diameter. Double ending overhanging load shows the it's centered in between the three cars centered in thing. This shows triple load, overload, double load. Open top loading rules, section 4 of the part 2. Note that securing machine skid all the machines except the solid base type which may be placed directly on the cab floor, securely bolted and blocked in the position. Skid supporting other than the top than solid base type must be not bolted to the car floor. Securing machines continued. All machines' heads must be locked in lowered position. Counterweights, etc. remove their locks in lower position. Lateral shaft, wheel, flywheel, gears, etc. Secure pins must be adequate secured to prevent movement or loss in transit. Removable parts such as brackets, arms, tables, motors, pumps, etc. which are difficult to support to protect. It cannot be secured adequately to the machine. Must be removed and separately secured or boxed. Using suitable bracing rods to prevent breakage of the legs and pedestals and frames. Open top loading rules, section 4, note 2, skids. Length of width must exceed overall dimension protruding part with not less than 2 inches size of 6 inches. The ends of all the skid members must be beveled not to exceed one-third the height of the skid. 6 of the size of the cross members must exceed the corners for the table 3. Secure skid members within 3/4 inch diameter of the bolts washer and have the nut of the counterbore underside of the skid members to accommodate bolt heads. Alright, dangerous commodities. Many articles of commerce possess the dangerous characteristic that must be regulated during the transportation in order to prevent personnel injury, loss of life, or the damage to property. The recognition of this of the Congress of the U.S. bylaws has directed with the Department of Transportation to formulate the regulation of the safe of the transportation exposure for other dangerous articles. The law provides criminal penalties whoever knowingly violates any regulation. The stated purpose of these regulations is to promote the uniform enforcement of the laws to minimize the danger of life, the property of the employees. Must thoroughly be instructed in relation thereto with the booklets of the 6 hazardous chemicals. Classification, hazardous material regulation, general notice 225, explosive, poisonous articles, flammable liquids, flammable solids, excitation materials, corrosive liquids, compressed gases, radioactive material. A car containing with such material will have the placards on it. These placards may be diamond-shaped, square, with a rectangle. They contain such with the words explosive, dangerous, radioactive, poison, gas, etc. Here are the slides of one such placard. In this case, flammable explosive materials. Special cards must be taken in the examining journal box of the trucks as well with adjacent cars, so to reduce the minimum of the possibility of hot germs or other failures resulting from the heat of the spark. Further, there are special restrictions for the location within the train of the most of the cars. Pay special attention to the possibility of the tanker cars and in doubt and notify their supervisor.